Yesterday, a video went viral of a TikTok influencer describing her encounter with a man on the streets of San Francisco. And the video begins with the classic line, "I'm literally shaking right now." And in your typical TikTok video, that opening would lead to a tale of misgendering or some other microaggression. But in this case, the incident she describes, assuming that it happened as she describes, is actually quite serious. Listen.
I'm literally shaking right now. I was just getting groceries and I live in San Francisco and I never really feel fully safe. If you live in San Francisco, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And I just got groceries. I'm walking out of the store and this guy is walking past me and says, "Move, you stupid bitch," and he spits in my face, spits all over my face. And then I say, "Excuse me, did you just spit in my face?" And he says, "Move or I'll rape you." There's also people everywhere and everyone's just walking by because they're like, I can't handle something else in San Francisco. It's always something else. I don't even know why I'm posting this. If you live in San Francisco, do you feel this way all the time? I don't feel safe, ever. I literally never feel safe. It's better when it's daylight. But nighttime, no, not leaving my house.
Now, normally I would be highly skeptical of a story like this, but she lives in San Francisco, which makes it immensely believable. If she lived in a normal neighborhood, it would be unthinkable that some man would just walk up to her on the sidewalk, spit in her face, and then threaten to rape her. You know, as Jason Aldean would say, try that in a small town. These kinds of things don't happen in small towns or even medium-sized towns. Yet in San Francisco, it has gotten to the point where it would actually be a shock if you lived there for a few months and didn't get randomly accosted by a lunatic on the street at least once. So although I don't know what really happened or if this really happened at all, I'm more than willing to believe it. Because again, this is San Francisco. That's also why it is, at this point, very hard for me to have sympathy for the typical San Francisco resident who has this kind of typical San Francisco experience. These are, in almost every case, liberals who vote for leftist candidates who promise to make their communities less safe. They vote for this. They choose it. They literally ask for it. And then they get what they asked for. My capacity for pity has, I confess, limits. And residents of San Francisco live outside of those limits at this point. Their communities do not have to be the disgusting, crime-infested wastelands that they've become. This is what the people in those communities have chosen. It's what they've done to themselves and continue to do. I made this point on Twitter and in response to this video, and I was immediately scolded for saying this. I was told that my attitude is heartless and callous and cruel, and I'm not going to succeed in persuading anyone if this is how I approach the issue. I was also lectured for making assumptions about this woman just based on the fact that she lives in the city. For all I know, she could be a young conservative white woman in San Francisco. One of the 3 in that category in the city. That's possible, technically. But in this case, my intuition was correct. Because here's another earlier TikTok video from this same woman. Watch.
I'm very liberal and not very religious, so if you're going to be offended, maybe turn away now. First up, The Gift of Life, sponsored by The Right to Life. I would give this a 6 out of 10 because the font choice is giving Disney and it's just so predictable. And as someone who is given the gift of life, it's not that great and I want to return it sometimes. Next up, I give this one 9 out of 10 because when was the last time you honestly saw an entire billboard dedicated to selling jacuzzis and spas? So vintage and unproblematic. Next up, I would give this one 4 out of 10 because I'm just not sure what is the call to action here. What do you want me to do with this information?
Sorry, I don't have an answer for that.
Me neither, Alexa. We're all a little bit confused right now. This next one, I would rate this 9 out of 10 because finally someone understands that only big boys need storage. As a simple-minded, weak little female, I absolutely do not need storage. I have no items and I don't own anything, especially land. At least Indiana gets it. Next up, I will definitely offend someone with this one. Do you know Jesus, he died for you? Well, as one of the only Jewish people in Indiana this weekend, do you know Jesus? Because he was my friend first. 4 out of 10 because who are you to ask if I know Jesus? That is very hard to judge because on one hand, the production value is very high. It reminds me when I walk by Anthropologie and I see their new store windows and I think, wow, whoever designed that has such an eye for production. On the other hand though, I look at this and think, pray, work, vote for life. But what I really see is pray, work, vote for the fetus. And then once the baby comes out, don't help those mothers. Don't pay into taxes that support lunches and healthcare and paid maternity and all the things that mothers need to actually care for their children, especially women of color who really have it way harder than most women in this country. So on that hand, I'm going to give this 0 out of 10.
And then she walks outside of her house and gets accosted by a random homeless guy in San Francisco, and I'm supposed to cry about that? Well, they say you can't judge a book by its cover, but once again, we find that, yes, you can do precisely that most of the time. If you assumed that a young white woman in San Francisco would be a smug, insufferable leftist who makes videos mocking Christians and pro-lifers and people who live in small towns and even joking about how she wishes she aborted her own child, which is what she said there at the beginning if you didn't catch it, well, your assumption is as accurate as was always destined to be. This is, in other words, exactly the kind of person who has actively made San Francisco into the toxic dump that it is today. Now she's crying about the consequences of her own choices. Has she learned her lesson, though? I mean, was this her awakening moment? Am I sitting here alienating someone who has seen the error of her ways? No, of course not. Of course not. In fact, immediately after posting that video where she's shaking in tears, recounting her traumatic experience, her next move was to post a series of follow-up videos where she uses her experience as an opportunity to lecture racist and anti-Semitic internet commenters who, she says, have been making bigoted assumptions. This is her priority after having just been, according to her, assaulted and threatened with rape by a guy on the street. Her priority after that experience is to lecture people for being racist on the internet. Grand Canyon University is an affordable private Christian university that's located in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, has a vibrant and expansive campus ranked top 20 in the country, according to niche.com. Praised for its culture of community, giving, and impact, GCU integrates the free market system and a welcoming Christian worldview perspective into over 320 academic programs with more than 260 programs online as of March 2023. Earn your bachelor's, your master's, your doctoral degree, where you can engage with faculty and connect with your own university counselor who takes a personalized approach for your success. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University, private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu. That's gcu.edu. Here's one of her follow-up videos. Watch.
No, it was a very well-groomed and well-dressed white man. Also, this is incredibly racist, and you will be blocked now. Goodbye.
Oh, yeah, sure. A well-dressed white man. We know that those are the kinds of people that are making our cities unlivable. Got to watch out for those well-dressed white men. I mean, every day we see another video of well-dressed white men randomly harassing and assaulting pedestrians, don't we? It's always a well-dressed white man. The funny thing here is that if she just said it was a white man, we could believe it. There are plenty of drugged-out white hobos in San Francisco and every other city. But she had to throw in well-dressed and well-groomed because she didn't want anyone to think that the person was homeless. After all, homeless people are a marginalized group. They're victims. And she couldn't allow her story to be used to smear the good name of homeless drug addicts. Which raises the question, who did actually attack her? Did anyone attack her? Who knows? Maybe it was a well-dressed white man. Maybe it was a white man in a three-piece suit, a top hat, and a monocle. Maybe the Monopoly man attacked her. It's possible. Strange things happen, especially in San Francisco. But whatever happened, we are left with this basic truth. Every community is the kind of community that it wants to be. If the people of San Francisco actually wanted to live in a safe, clean city where law and order prevail, if they prioritized this, if they prioritized their own well-being and the well-being of their families and their children, then San Francisco would be safe and clean and law and order would prevail. It really is that simple. Now, I'm accused of not reaching out, not trying to persuade people like the woman in this video. And that's true. It's not my goal to persuade her. She's an adult. She has a brain, no matter how it may seem. She does have one. She understands at a basic level that crime is bad, that it's bad to feel unsafe all the time, that garbage and fecal matter all over the street, that's bad. I don't need to persuade her of this fact, even if I was interested in persuading her, which I'm not. She already knows. She also knows that she's voting for candidates who expressly promise to not address any of these problems and who, in fact, pledge to do everything they can to make it worse. I don't need to explain that either. All these people already know that. They know what they're doing. They have decided to put their ideological and political commitments above their own safety and their own prosperity. They have decided to sacrifice everything on the altar of the narrative. Again, I don't need to tell them this. Nobody does. They know it. What is left to do then but to leave them to wallow in their own self-inflicted misery? It's not our job to rescue them from the consequences of their own actions. And even if it was our job, there's no way we can. It's not possible. If there's any hope for these people now, it's going to come the hard way, the hardest way. They're going to have to make their own lives unbearably awful. They're going to have to suffer personal tragedy. They're going to have to really experience the world that they've created for themselves. That's what's going to have to happen. Maybe they'll get to the point where they can't take it anymore, where the reality is too dire to keep ignoring. Or maybe, and I think that this is more likely, they'll decide to go down with the ship. Their cities will fall apart, and they will stay and let themselves be buried under the rubble. Maybe they'd rather die than admit that they're wrong and that we're right. Well, so be it. The choice is theirs. I can't make it for them. And yeah, I don't feel sorry for them. But I will say that these leftists who've ruined their own communities are today canceled. Hey, YouTube, thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like access to my full show with no ads, you should go to dailywire.com and use promo code Walsh to get 2 months free on all annual plans. See you there.